Hello, my name is Richard Harmel. What I'd like to do this morning is address the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's final environmental impact report that was released in December of last year. And I would particularly like to address some of the issues that the FEIR failed to acknowledge or even address in terms of responses to the original DEIR. And there are basically 5 points that I'd like to run through. I'll just tell you what they are to begin with. One is the dewatering. The second one has to do with underground gas storage operations. The third one is the premise that the Ballona Wetlands Ecological Reserve is historically a saltwater tidal wetland. The fourth point is that the FEIR fails to address climate change. And the fifth and final point is bulldozing a viable option for restoration in Ballona. So coming back to the first concern about the systematic dewatering of Ballona, everyone seems to recognize that Ballona has a problem. It has been declared impaired and degraded, and everybody recognizes that there's no wet in the wetlands. One option that the FEIR is saying is that because it was a full tidal wetland originally, that the reason it's not wet is because there's no salt water. And so the proposition is that in order to correct that, what we have to do is to allow full tidal saltwater influence and intrusion into the Ballona wetlands. Well, the problem, the other side to that coin is that there's no water in the Ballona wetlands because for 20 plus years, the fresh water has been systematically drained out of the wetlands for numerous reasons. One is upstream from Ballona, we have the Playa Vista development. And the Playa Vista development, in order to survive, is required to pump out water that threatens two things. Their development system, in other words, keeping water out of the underground garages and elevator shafts, so they have to get that water out of there. And number two is to maintain their methane mitigation system. They have to keep the water out so that the mud and water doesn't clog up the vents that are draining or siphoning off the methane gas. And the third dewatering and process that is diverting water is with their freshwater marsh. The freshwater marsh would ideally be a source of fresh water for Ballona, but it's got a clay lining, and any excess water from that source is being drained out to Ballona Creek. And so the Ballona wetlands is not and has not been getting any of this fresh water that is critical to its survival, and this is not even being considered in this FEIR. That's number one. Number two, right smack dab in the middle of the Ballona Wetlands Ecological Reserve, we find a 240-acre conditional use permit leased underground gas storage operations of SoCalGas PDR. Underneath this acreage are 7 billion cubic yards of gas, of gas, frack gas that's being imported into this area from Texas and Oklahoma and other sources. This gas is coming in, it's being stored at a pressure of 2,400 pounds per square inch, and ever since SoCalGas PDR took this over in 1952, there is a history of gas seeping out into about 2,000 acres that are surrounding their leased conditional use permitted space. This is a problem at hand in 2018, the California Council of Science and Technology did a study on the viability of underground gas storage operations in California, and the most notable finding for us is that they determined that the Playa del Rey operations were the most dangerous and posed the greatest threat not only to the environment but to the neighborhood surrounding this area. And so what is not being considered is that there is outgassing and migrating and escaping gases that come up not only into the environment but also into the neighborhoods surrounding. This is not being addressed in the FEIR. Number 3, the premise that the Ballona Wetlands Ecological Reserve is a full tidal saltwater wetlands. It is not. We have geographical, archaeological, geomorphological, hydrological, ecological research that proves that it is not. Point 4 is that it fails to adequately address climate change. So there's no consideration of the rising acidification in the oceans, of the superstorm frequency, of the different impacts that climate change will have on the Ballona and their proposed restoration. Thank you.
Thank you.